Hi there, I am Amy Reardon, and I have been going through my book, All of You, chapter by chapter. And today I am going to be talking about chapter 20, which is almost the last chapter. This has been several months that I have been going through this, whether this is your first time listening to this or watching one of the videos. I've been doing these for several months now, and I took a little bit of a break because I pre-recorded a lot of them, and so actually a couple months have gone by since I've recorded any of these. I'm in my new office now, which I'm so happy about. But today I am going to be talking about maintaining your healing journey. It is so important to maintain our healing journey, no matter what that looks like. No matter if you have been wrestling with a sexual stronghold of any kind, like we've been talking about, or maybe it's something else. We all need to maintain our healing journey. And in this chapter, I'm not going to read directly from it, but I do have certain points that I'm going to read from before I get to mention it, before I forget to mention it, in case you haven't uh, listened to any of these or watched any of these before. I have my book, All of You, on Amazon if you would like a copy. Um, but these are just some of the points that I wrote down that I know have been helpful for me in my own healing journey and helpful for many other women. I'm sure I could add several more, but this is what I put in the book. The first one is to focus on healthy relationships and boundaries. I have mentioned some of this all throughout the chapters, but it's so important to have healthy relationships and just be aware, is this person a healthy person to be in my life, or is this a toxic relationship? That is so very important. And boundaries, which I've mentioned several times. Just be aware. I know that I'm consistently more and more being aware where I maybe need to put a boundary that I hadn't had before, or maybe I need to change a boundary, or maybe I just need to be aware of boundaries because I know if you are like me at all, I did not grow up even knowing about boundaries at all. I had some natural ones, but there were a lot of other boundaries that I honestly did not know I could even set because it felt selfish, and it was not selfish at all. I have come to realize. And boundaries are not instructing other people what they can't do to us, or like, you can't do this. It's more of, if this continues to happen, then I am going to do this. If you continue to talk to me this way, I am going to leave the conversation. That is what a boundary is, what we are going to do if this continues to happen. So, yes, healthy relationships and boundaries are so important. The second point I have here is be mindful of how social media is affecting you. And if you know me, you know, of course, I put this in here because social media, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with. Um, but as even my daughter is, she is 16 now. I've been telling her, pay attention when you are on, whatever social media platform. Pay attention to how you feel when you get off of that. Pay attention to how it makes you feel. And I know that I need to be mindful of that as well. So that's what I wanted to share with you as well. Be mindful of how social media is making you feel. There's good points to social media, and there's very um, negative parts to social media. I think that goes without explanation, but just be mindful of how maybe there are times that I just restricted the amount of time that I was on something, or the time of day, or just trying not to scroll, deciding I'm not going to scroll, or deciding, okay, these are the people that I am interested in seeing what they post. So I'm going to look at their stuff only, whatever that looks like for you. So, Also, I have on here exercise and eat healthy, which is kind of funny because I have done that and not done that, and done that and not done that, and done that. And now I am doing that again. But that's only been for a couple of months. But I have noticed consistently, I feel so much better when I exercise. And I just walk right now. That's mainly what I do. I walk almost every day. Eating healthy, um, that looks different for all of us. Um, of course, the least amount of processed food that any of us can eat, that's all around the board. But um, we feel better when we eat healthier, and we can make better decisions when we're feeling well, because we know the opposite is true. If we're not feeling well, it's harder to make good decisions. It's sometimes sleep can be interrupted, and it's just a lot easier to make better decisions, to think clearly when we're eating well. And that was next. Set aside time to get enough sleep and rest. I will say, with this point that I have listed, um, I know depending on who you are and what stage of life you are in, sometimes we don't get much sleep, and there's not a whole lot that we can do about it. When my kids were little, I was not sleeping, especially with my firstborn. I was not sleeping, so much so um, that um, I remember in the first like month or so that my firstborn was born, I forgot his name. Now that sounds crazy, but I was not sleeping at all. And my daughter, my second born, she slept a whole lot better right from the beginning. So I did a little better with sleep, but sometimes we can't control that. And now I'm in midlife, things get really different then too. So it's like, but I need to, what I've done and what I recommend to others, there are things that we can do to help us sleep more if we're on our phones or on, whatever, right up until the time we try to go to bed. Sometimes it can be very hard to go to sleep right away. But all of this, I mentioned all of this because it makes it so much easier to make good decisions in our lives, to be when we're well rested. And again, some of that we cannot control. Sometimes we can. Even just little things that we can do can make all the difference. Um, yes. But again, I know sometimes it depends on the stage of life that we're in, and you need a lot of prayer when kids are little, or just anything going on that's out of your control. Um, Connect with others regularly. That's another point, and that's so important for all of us. We were created for connection. You were created for connection. And I'm not talking about social media again. And yes, some groups can be great. Like I've had groups on Zoom, and the connection that we've all had with each other and that they've had with each other has been wonderful. And we can't always find people locally that we deeply connect with, but that is so important to look for and to even pray for. God, I need some people. I need some women in my life to connect with. Can you please show me where to find that? It's so important to have in our lives, at least to be open to having that, because like I said, we were created to connect with other people. The next point, be kind to yourself. If you're like me, if you're like many of the other women that I have ministered to or coached over the years, or really so many women just in general, it can be so, it can be so challenging to be kind to ourselves. I know that that's something that I have, even in this past year, have been much more cognizant about, and successfully seeing myself being much more kind to myself. And it is amazing the changes that we see in our lives and our hearts when we're actually kind to ourselves. And when we treat ourselves the way we would treat somebody else, when we give ourselves grace and mercy and kindness and compassion that we would give somebody else, is amazing. What that can do. And that goes along with our decisions. Being kind to myself is being in healthy relationships and not ignoring what's going on inside of me so I can make somebody else happy. Like that's a whole other thing. Um, yes, there's a lot of that. And my coaching with Free to Be Me coaching, that's something that I talk about a lot with people. And that's a whole other thing that God's doing in my life. And I've been sharing with others as I learn. Um, Stay close to Jesus during wilderness seasons. That's another point that I have. That's the last one that I have. There could be more, I'm sure, but um, it's so important to stay close to Him during a wilderness season. And like I wrote in my book, sometimes we don't even know when we're in one until one day we think or realize, oh my goodness, I think I'm in the middle of a wilderness season. I have been feeling so distant from God and just so separated from everything. And this has ended, and this has ended, and this has ended. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're in the middle of one and until we have been in one. It's so important to stay close to Jesus, not just in the wilderness, but when we're not in the wilderness, because we need to have that close relationship with Him for when things happen in our lives as they always do that we were not expecting, stressful things, things where there's just grief in our lives. We need to maintain that with Him. I know I've mentioned several times before in other videos and podcast episodes that there's been times I've strayed and not even realizing it, like everything seems to be kind of going okay in my life, and I just can coast on my relationship with Jesus and then all of a sudden realize, whoa, I feel so lonely in like the depth of my soul, kind of lonely. And that is always a huge red flag. Whoa, am I spending time with Jesus? Because I don't tend to feel that to that depth when I am spending time with Him. Yes, I can still feel lonely when I'm spending time with Him, but that deep, deep, like just in the pit of me empty, that means I'm not spending time with God. That's for me, that's my red flag. Um, so yes, that are some ways that you and I can maintain our healing journey no matter what that looks like. Because there's always going to be things that come along, but those are some ways, and I'm sure there's more. Maybe you thought of some more as I was talking, maybe thinking, oh, I wish you would have mentioned that or that. Those are some other things that are just important to help us stay on track, not be perfect, but just to um, maintain what has already happened in our lives and to continue to grow, to continue to receive healing and freedom in our lives and in our hearts, and to continue the intimacy. Building that intimacy with Jesus is so, so important. So that is the end of chapter 20. Next time, I will be going over chapter 21, which is dwelling in the secret place. And I saved that one for last because it's so, so, so important. So I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.